Hello everyone! Today we continue working with the dress cut on the bias. The last time we made a pattern, and today we'll start cutting. I'm not going to tell you again how we made the pattern. I have a lot of information to tell you. This is a lengthwise grain, the selvage. This is a crosswise grain. You should fold the angle in half so that the lengthwise and the crosswise grains match. Put the fabric on a fold towards yourself. I made a bias fold at the angle of 45 degrees towards the lengthwise and the crosswise grains. Now I'll show you what you should pay attention to when cutting and preparing for the cutting. I made a fold and now I straighten the fabric. This is the lengthwise grain. This is the crosswise grain. I made the fold at the angle of 45 degrees. I understand that you want to straighten the fabric, but don't stretch it here. You can stretch it a bit along the lengthwise and the crosswise grains. Just a bit. You can make the moves either along the lengthwise or the crosswise grains. That's the only way to do it. I made a couple of moves in the fold to show you what you shouldn't do, and now I have to fix it. Look at my hands. I stretch it only along the lengthwise or crosswise grains. Very nice. We're ready to cut out the front. Put the fold along the edge of the table. Put the pattern here. We prepared the pattern in advance, so now we don't have to adjust anything. I want the dress to be a bit wide. Not too wide though, just a bit. You can see that I need to make the dress longer. Hope you remember how to do it. The length is 103 centimeters, so I place the measuring tape with the mark 103 on the shoulder top and measure 103 centimeters down. Now I see that I need to add 24 centimeters. I don't calculate anything, I just use a measuring tape. Now I make a dress 24 centimeters longer. I need to draw a side seam. Just like that. I'll make it flare down from the chest. Let me take a ruler first. Watch what I'm doing. I'll cut only one layer for the fitting. If you want the dress to be wider, make the cuts here and open them. I made just one opening here and added about 3 centimeters for the hips. This line is straight. I drew it with the ruler. Let's start cutting. Cut slowly and be very attentive. You can easily make mistakes when cutting out a dress on a bias. You can't cut fast on a bias. You should be very careful and attentive. I think I'll transfer the tuck, and I also think that I will move it higher. A dress cut on a bias can sag. I concentrate on what I'm doing so I can't even tell you anything now. Cutting silk on a bias is very hard. In our fashion house, we have the tailors who cut the chiffon on a bias. I admire them. I need to straighten the line. I added 1 more centimeter here, because the baby hem requires some space too. I cut out the front, and now I draw a tuck. I want to move it higher. A dress cut on a bias can sag. Put a lot of pins here. You should be very careful when working with the tucks, otherwise they won't be even. I don't throw the pattern away, because I will need it to cut out the second layer. I'll do it after the fitting. I forgot to mark the waistline. What a shame. Here it is. I put the pattern back, checked everything, and marked it. Have a look here. I cut out the front. Now I need to fold the fabric again to cut out the back. I think I'll make a small opening in the back too. Put this part aside. Do the same thing. Fold the angle in half. A lengthwise and a crosswise grains should match. Now put the fabric on a table, placing the fold towards yourself. We have a lengthwise and crosswise grains here, lengthwise here, bias here. Lay out the fabric the same way. This is a very important moment. Be very careful. You should know how to do it right. Place it along the edge of the table. It may seem hard, but after a couple of times you will do it easily. This is the back. I want to make a small opening here too. I want the dress to be wide. Not too wide though. Remember that we made a dress 24 centimeters longer and then I added 1 centimeter more. I'll leave some space for a flare on this side, but I still place the fabric along the bias fold. Be very attentive. Use many pins, so that the fabric is placed firmly and it doesn't move. The pattern should be pinned to the fabric carefully. This time I won't forget to mark the waistline. Here it is. Now I can mark 25 centimeters at once. Here and here and here and 1 more here. Now I just need to draw a back seam. I draw a straight line up from the shoulder blades, and down from them I want the dress to be a bit wider. You can change it. Make a wider dress, tighter, or a very wide one. I wear the items of different length, long, till the knees, higher than the knees. It depends on the weather, on the mood, on a cause, and so on. Try different designs and decide what suits you best. It's almost impossible to make a perfect item for yourself when sewing for the first time. Have a look at me. I recommend not to start the flare right from the armholes. Make a flare a bit lower. I add a couple of centimeters here for the flare. I think I'll add even more. I cut really slow. When cutting on a bias, you should be very careful. The fabric shouldn't move on a table. It should lay firmly. Have a look here. I tried hard to make the line straight, but I still need to fix it a bit. The lines should be straight. If they're curved, the seams won't be straight neither. I just need to cut the back. I'll tack the center back now. You should also be very careful when sewing. I recommend you not to make tight items on a bias if you don't have much of an experience. When you learn how to work with the wide items cut on a bias, you can try sewing tight ones. It's very hard. Even the professional tailors sometimes fail to do it. That's not the reason I'm making a white dress. I need such one. This is the waistline. Detach the fabric very carefully. I put it aside. Tack the back seam very carefully, stitch by stitch. Tack only on a table, very accurately, one stitch at a time, fixing the fabric with your hands. I don't even tell you anything, just show the process. You should be very careful and attentive. Control everything that you are doing. We'll tack the dress carefully, cut out the sleeves, and then try it on. I'll put on the shoes to decide on the length. I'll cut the second layer out off screens. Do not forget that I want to make a 2-layer dress. It's a pleasure to make such dresses of crepe de China. Of course it's expensive, but it's worth it. The dress will have a very nice shape due to the second layer, but it will still be light. If you use a strong crepe, you will get an absolutely different item. I tack the back seam. The fabric shouldn't be stretched. Now let's put the back aside and work with the front. Knowing that a dress cut on a bias will sag, I move the tuck a bit higher. I don't need these lines anymore. This is the new tuck. Now I need to transfer it to the other side. Work slowly and carefully. Turn the fabric and draw the tuck. Do not make any gathers. If this line is too long, we'll fix it later. I hope you remember that we tack the tucks from the top. Remember that we don't stretch or gather the fabric. You can see that one line is longer. We can't just match the ending points and make the folds. It will damage the whole item. You should be very careful. Be very attentive. Do not stretch the fabric. Tack it just the way it is. The lines are different because they're slant. The dress is very festive, so you can make such ones for some holidays. The difference here is pretty big. However, the tuck fits me well. There are no gathers. Let's tack the second tuck. You can see that the lower part of the tuck is much longer. So I pin the waistline and the armhole and cut this extra piece off. If you work using this technique, the tucks won't sag. Today we made the back and the front. That's all for today. My name is Irina. Subscribe to my channel. Goodbye.